Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI4. Our next panel is titled The State of AI in Marketing. Please join me in welcoming our panelists to the virtual stage. If everyone can turn on their videos, we'll get started.
Thank you, Patricia, for this introduction. I see everyone is getting back in the room. Thank you. So just to warm up this session, give it a second before we introduce each other. Obviously, you saw a glimpse of who we are and what companies we work in, but obviously we are more than just a title and a headshot. So I want to start off with just a random order. Frank, if you could introduce yourself further to the group.
Yes, so sorry. So I'm Frank. I work with Amazon, and I work in the back end, meaning I support all the business in order to make sure that we can deliver product across the world. So my role is really to do marketing, to recruit millions of workers in US and across the world. So if you think about Amazon, think about front end, the delivery, and the back end. How do you deliver? So my role is to do marketing, to do this type of job.
Thank you, Frank. Hemal, over to you.
Thank you. So I work with Merck Pharmaceuticals. I've been in marketing for the pharmaceutical industry for over 15 years now, and committed to solve the problem of getting to the ideal goal of marketing, which is right message to the right customer at the right time. I'm also an active investor and engaged in a lot of startups that are, again, committed to solve the same problem within pharma marketing. Thank you.
Perfect. Marco, over to you, Verizon.
Yes, Marco Di Giacomo. Among other things, I am responsible for the development and the adoption of machine learning for all of Verizon Consumer Group.
Nice, very interesting and relevant to have you in this session. Venki.
Hello, everyone. I'm Venki Subramanian. I'm the VP of Product Management and User Experience at Reltio, which is a cloud-based enterprise master data management software with a focus on connected customer data. So we offer software technologies for customers to collect and consolidate their customer data. And we also offer AI-powered capabilities as part of that. And in my role, I work with customers. I also work with our own teams who use our product internally. I'm happy to be here today.
Great. Thanks for all the introduction. And let me also share a little bit about myself. My name is Menno Van Der Eijk. I work for Unilever. As you may know them, it's a big company, global CPG, many categories. My position is really in the food and refreshment side of the business for US and Canada. And my position within that is focusing on digital and e-commerce. But with that, very much an entrepreneur in finding new models to be relevant for our customers. And our customers are particularly in our department, restaurants, hotels, offices. So we are servicing the big customers that are using our brands, like you might know them from Brand to Lipton to Hellmann's and a variety of other tea brands. I think with such a diverse group among B2C and a little bit about B2B from myself, but also software, I think we have a great group to dive into some of the questions on how AI plays a role within marketing. I'm always very enthusiastic about this topic. I think for everyone, it's a journey. I think we have a privilege to share what we do within our company for a wide audience that are tuning in this session. So yeah, let's keep the dialogue as fresh as we can and zoom in on some details where we can. As we all know, it's still a little bit of a new era, although many of us might have been started many years ago. We can all learn from each other. So let's this be a session to learn from each other, and hopefully we can provide value to our audience. Yeah, let's see for a first question to warm up our conversation, which is typically really like a warm-up question. So do we all agree that marketing is in the midst of an inevitable AI-driven transformation? So whoever's first, what do we think? And then I have to point.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't be here if we didn't all agree with that statement, or at least we wouldn't be in the roles that we have. I think the question is whether it's a transformation or a revolution in many respects. And what I mean by that is a transformation implies that a lot of things, or the majority of the things, will stay the same. I'm not sure that that will be the case. I suspect the majority of things will change and very little will stay.
I like the perspective of a revolution. Any other insights, Frank?
Yeah, my insight is yes, it is. But I think the most important aspect that I'm facing is marketing technology stack. Do we have it in place to run machine learning, big data? That's the use, I would say, the main factor that has been a block to really embrace AI.
Yeah. And just to add, I think one of the big changes that I notice is the democratization of the technology, right? Like some of the companies with a lot of budgets, deep pockets, could invest a lot and leverage these modern technologies and use that for marketing in very creative ways. But it was only accessible for a small percentage of those companies. Now with the changes in technology, we see that these kind of capabilities are becoming available to everybody. Even smaller companies are able to take advantage of AI in the marketing space and really market to that the segment of one, which is really great.
Agree. I agree with all the comments that are made so far. I would give an answer a little bit from the perspective of just marketing in pharma. And I feel like, yes, we are in that period of transformation and revolution both. However, it's going to be a while, right? Because in pharma, a lot of the data is more regulated. Access to data is more difficult because we're talking about physician and patient level data, which is more, there's just more confidentiality associated with the data. So it's going to be a while, but we have started the journey, I would say.
Yeah, obviously, I couldn't agree more. This is such a hot topic nowadays. And I actually like what Marco just started with in terms of whether it's a transformation or revolution. And I'm reflecting on what Venki said in terms of making it much more accessible to the mass. I think by making it more accessible to the mass, it becomes a revolution. Everyone gets their hands on, whether they sometimes are aware of it or not. I think it's just in the midst of our lives. And for many, we even have notice of what's happening when we just step in our car and move to the supermarket and then see what comes to you. So I think it might be definitely a revolution here. Yeah, thanks for this first question just to start up. Yeah, I would suggest let's go to a following question to dive into a little bit more the depth of this topic. And this is obviously very much right now in this unfortunate pandemic. So in this time of COVID, how has your marketing strategy been impacted? Have your AI projects been given less or greater priority? Let's start with Hemal.
Excellent. I think it's a great question, right? Amidst COVID, of course, marketing strategies had to evolve and have evolved quite a bit. They have shifted from the focus in the personal promotion or sales reps to now being more focused on non-personal promotion and digital channels. The focus on AI and machine learning has gone up significantly because the goal now is how do we make marketing more personalized? So personalized in terms of just when do we get to our customers in terms of time, when are we using, what channels are we using as it relates to all the different digital channels that we have available, what messages do we want to say to the customers, where are they in that customer journey, and how do we target them with the right messages at that right time of their customer journey. So I think all of those things are becoming very relevant given COVID and given lack of access to customers as it comes to sales reps and just personal promotion.
Yeah. Venki, any reflections on your end in this time of business?
We all see this across the board, right? Even for us, a lot of our in-person events went away and it's getting replaced with digital events. How do we change our marketing strategy, our demand generation strategy and all that? When we look into our customer base and how they are leveraging customer data, all of a sudden now they have a need to track a new set of attributes, new set of preferences from customers and things like that. So how do we also help our customers upgrade their marketing technology stack, the MarTech stack, to actually be able to react to these kind of changes very quickly? This is a constant need from our customers. Many of our customers we see are completely moving away, especially in the retail space where they don't have the ability to conduct the business in the traditional means anymore. We are seeing them move more and more towards the digital strategy or digital first strategy or sometimes digital only strategies. And Yeah, so definitely COVID has accelerated. In fact, on a slightly lighter note, I think it was a cartoon by Tom Fishburne, if I'm not mistaken, which said, what are the different things that cost your digital transformation? And the last one on the list was COVID-19. That is the reality we are living in right now.
Yeah, I like the way you end with what you just shared. It's only in light of this pandemic that many businesses have been changing. I can only imagine for Verizon, by connecting more and more people and everyone demanding of high bandwidth and obviously within split seconds. So how has this changed for you, Marco?
Certainly it has made what we're doing with artificial intelligence even more important. The way I would think about it is, at the end, what COVID has done is it has shifted towards the digital channel a lot of activities. And the digital channel is a uniquely effective one for artificial intelligence, given the state of the industry, because the reality is that, yes, we have an NLP layer in artificial intelligence, natural language programming, that is getting better and better. And so people are starting to talk to their phones and what else. And yes, image recognition is getting there, but people are much more comfortable, if you want, with having a chat interface that is AI powered than with having a phone conversation or an in-person conversation with something that is not a human being. And so by shifting a lot of the activities to the digital channel, inherently COVID has made AI more powerful because it has shifted the volume towards a channel that AI is much more effective in.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with that, and I don't repeat everything what you just shared, but it's such similarities with our businesses. We have what I just said in my intro. We operate in the B2B business, so I think Hemal, you might touch upon it as well in terms of our sales force. They were used to operate in a physical environment, and now obviously it has shifted towards a virtual environment. And we've seen great success with that as well, by doing more connects, and even sometimes as even effective. Obviously, you can't compare with a physical connection, human to human, but in a way, all those additional digital connects, and obviously with that, it comes the additional amount of data that obviously really prioritize AI on the agenda. Because you see the trend of the amount of connections, the engagements, and then obviously everyone starts to understand how can we then further personalize our conversations moving forward. So within Verizon, within businesses Unilever, an increase in digital connects has put an AI even more on the agenda, if I say. Frank, within Amazon, what can you share?
So COVID got a few impacts. The first one is the business has boomed. And in order to support the business, they were the challenge. So we have to move to digital in order to recruit. And not only we have to move to digital, but the word is based on the $millions we invest in marketing, we have to be precise and very personalized, because we do recruiting at a local levels. We face a lot of competitions. So it's like, how do you turn an marketing organization into a profit center? And this is where the company is going, based on the investment. And when you think about the sales funnel, we try to leverage AI to make sure that we are efficient from the reach of the customer to the attritions or retentions. Yeah. And if you think about it, attritions, if you look at a company like Amazon, could cost $millions per year. So AI is becoming a huge, or we'll say, the new predictive marketing is becoming a huge asset for Amazon to turn the marketing into a profit center.
Nice. Hemal, any insights within Merck of how this has been, accelerated AI on the agenda?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I think accelerated significantly, where to all the previous comments made, right? Personalization is becoming more and more important. Just in terms of acceleration, like getting access to data, purchasing different data sets, and all of that has become very critical right now in order to make sure that we are being very effective and efficient in using those digital channels, and they are able to make up for the loss in the personal promotion that we're facing because of COVID.
So with our next question, we are diving a little bit further in marketing, although we have touched on it a little bit even what Marco just shared and all of us. So let me introduce this question. So how does AI make it into our marketing programs? Have we built those models in-house? Are we doing that with third parties? And we also have a software company like Reltio on the call. Is it both? Sometimes the hybrid is something that we like to choose for as well. So I'm very curious, and our audience as well. What are we doing here? Let's hear from Marco.
Well, at the scale that we operate, Verizon Consumer Group is an $80 billion a year company. The answer is naturally both, if for no other reason. There's always somebody in a corner doing something that you don't know about in terms of trying something within a sandbox environment. The reality, though, is we look at machine learning and we look at models as the secret sauce of the future. So anything that we consider in that area, we always look at, is this something that we want to build ourselves? Because remember, in the end, models are 90% data and 10% algorithm, meaning machine learning is all about your ability to start from whatever point you start from, and then feeding enough interesting and relevant information to make the algorithm better over time, or I should say to make the model better over time. So again, for us, we look at this area as a strategic area. It's the reason why we develop a lot of it internally, and we consider it a differentiator compared to other companies.
Yeah.
I think, I
Please
just want to jump in here because I think, Marco, you made a very important point of machine learning being 10% algorithms and 90% data. That is so true, right? So even that question, I think we probably might have to even reframe that question, right? We really need to start with what are the business problems we are trying to solve, or what are the questions we are trying to answer by applications of machine learning and the data that we have. The algorithms that we are using are quite standardized and they're really available off the shelf. It's really the data that makes a difference. And there are data that is very business specific. And in that case, it makes all the more sense to use your business specific data, train the models and create results that particularly apply to your business. And in some cases it is not. And there are software vendors that pre-package these models and solutions based on those models into their solutions. So for ourselves as Reltio, as an example, we provide our customers with the ability to bring in their own data and create machine learning models and capture the results back into our system. For example, in the pharmaceutical space, if you want to understand the key opinion leaders, which is a well-known problem or a requirement in that space, those models can be created by our customers. Whereas there are applications of machine learning that we do within our own platform where we don't need to really rely on the customer data because it's standardized. Like Google can provide a predictive text solution without actually relying on any specific data. So we really need to look at what is the problem we are trying to solve and how best to apply the technology that is at our disposal to solve those problems.
Yeah. Hemal, within the pharmaceutical industry?
Of course. So I think I bring in a slightly different perspective from the panel, right? Coming just from a pharma space, we are not there yet when it comes to technology. And I don't think we'll be there yet in the next 3 to 5 years to start building AI or ML models internally. We at Merck partner with a vendor called Pharma Force IQ, a fantastic vendor that is catered to just giving us AI ML models to solve different things within marketing. But really they plug in their software, they know how to work with our data, and we bring in the best of two worlds and make it all work. So yeah. I think we have to rely on vendors when it comes to the pharma space.
So Frank, you earlier mentioned that you within Amazon trying to make the marketing centers as profit centers. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you build the models internally, externally, hybrid? What is your take?
So my take is Amazon always does built-in. because of the data and the privacy of the data that they look for. However, when you think about the consumer journey today, there is one part that we don't control, is the touch and the multi-touch before the consumer gets on Amazon. So if you think about a consumer, there is the reach and how many times we need to reach the consumers. And this part, we don't master it. So it's a combination about what do we have internally in terms of data and how do we manage the outside world. So partnering with programmatic marketing, for instance, company, help us connect the dots. Because I think what is very important is to understand when you work with partners, what they can leverage internally. So that's what I say. Today we are in a situation where hybrid solution is the most important thing, but also you need to work with partners, not vendors. So you need to integrate the partners in your system or ecosystem in order to make it happen. And I'm going to mention 4 things. When you think about marketing at Amazon, there is 4 pieces. There is the ad tech, which is really outside. There is a martech. And after that, there is a decisioning engine that you can have internally or externally. And this is where all these pillars are coming together. So doing an in-house solutions, it will work partially. So we have to extend it, which is the difficulties for Amazon.com, because they used to master everything from A to Z. But today, I don't think it's possible.
So, you know, the take from Unilever is and I think shared by a few of you as well. You can only do as much as you can in terms of your data that you hold, and through the data that you have available, you start to think, what can I do with that, or vice versa. And I think what Unilever is doing is to seek for hybrids. We are growing and developing our own talents. We are attracting talents. So we are building things in-house. So our department, as also a global division, works with a global center of expertise with data scientists, data engineers. And I actually came from that division 4 or 5 years ago. And right now I cannot imagine that I could have done that. Hindsight, we now have the right people with the right skills, with the right foresight and vision. But with that, you build your internal muscle, making you more capable to have the conversations with your external environments and seeking those dots and connecting that, like what Frank also said. So within our B2B division, we are relying on many partners and suppliers to lend their data or to agree on partnership to share data across. So with that, we aren't always able to define the algos on their data sets. By working together, you be able to connect the dots. So for us, it's hybrid. What we can do ourselves based on the explicit given data from operators, customers, suppliers, partners, we do ourselves. And over the years, what makes it comfortable for us is that certain business rules or algos you define has never changed that much. It's about the data that you get more over time, makes it even more precise. But we still want to reach more effectively our people, whether these are existing customers or new customers. So how can we do that effectively? And once we have them and build a relationship, what is he or she likely to buy? The white spot models, that is never going to change. We still want to understand who's more preferred to which brand or which category. And then lastly, how can we bring the message, like what Hemal also said initially, like with a personalized communication. So certain things will never change. I think it's what I really like, Frank, what you say, like certain areas you might be underdeveloped in what you can do yourselves, and then finding the partners in your ecosystem, then connecting the dot. I think also touching on the first intro we said, I think then we are really scaling it. And then we're really thinking from an ecosystem beyond your own department or your company. So really great question. So let's see if we have some more questions to elaborate on this exciting topic. So do we find it challenging to get the right data? And then here we spoke a little bit more, but let's go into a little bit more depth. So the challenging part of getting more data, the right data about your customers or maybe your suppliers, your partners, and then preferences for building your AI models. And with that, how does data wrangling coexist with customer privacy? Very essential. Hemal, any ideas? Or how does Merck take this into take this challenge into account?
Yeah, I think the issue is not just about Merck, it's the industry, right? The pharmaceutical space. As I touched on briefly earlier, we are dealing with very sensitive patient level data, as well as sensitive physician level data, right? So how we use that data, who has access to it, how we build those models on top of that data, things get, we have to be very, very careful because it's a very line and you don't want to cross that. The other thing is also just access to data, right? So unlike it is in some of the other consumer industries, like getting access to some of this data is one difficult, just because you can never get to a universe where you have data that covers greater than 60% of the universe, right? And that too, you would get to that place by combining data from like multiple different data sources. So that is the first level of difficulty that comes in. But the second level of difficulty is also, it's extremely expensive. All of the data that you can get, again, because it is sensitive, because it is patient level data and all of that, it's very expensive to purchase multiple data sources. So all of those things combined make it difficult in the pharmaceutical space to apply some of those algorithms and models and run AI very effectively per se. But that said, having done this for some time now, where I'm trying to figure out how best to do it, I think there are ways in order to solve this problem. And again, you cannot do it in the space without vendors and partners per se, in Frank's language, right? But you need that solid ecosystem of partners and partners who understand the space and who have done this before to make it successful in the pharma industry.
Yeah, pharma industry is that. So I think you are going to learn and share, hopefully share a lot, because this is quite a challenging environment. For Verizon, Marco.
So for Verizon, as you can imagine, the situation has been exceedingly complex, in part because we have a whole division, Oath, which is in the media advertisement business. And so privacy is always something that we balance in that part of our business is literally predicated upon customer data. And what we have found, what customers have told us, is at the end, it's about control. What they care about is that they have the ability to decide what can and cannot be used, and they have the always ability to walk away, as you can imagine. So we have a privacy dashboard that is available to all of our customers, in which they can go, they can remove or tell us what information they don't want us to use anymore. Some information is required for us to be able to operate. So if you don't want to give us your location, we cannot give you cell phone service for the purpose, as an example, of just providing you the cell phone service. But you can limit that to just the scenario of, I want you to give us cell phone service. I don't want you to share this location information with anybody else. And so to your point, the issue is mostly the issue of, how do you maintain an open communication and an open dialogue with your customers so they know what you're using their information for, and you give them the ability to take an informed decision and the tools to implement that decision, which again, we do through our privacy dashboard, which is available for all of our consumers.
I like that privacy dashboard a lot, because through that trust that you provide to every individual, you often potentially see that they might be sharing a little bit more because it will be used in a good way. It would help them as well to progress and to get more relevant services. So that transparency with customer privacy, I think, is a key one. Venki, from a software perspective, how are you helping customers with that?
Definitely, and these are conversations that I get to hear or participate in almost on a daily basis. The things that Hemal mentioned coming from the pharmaceutical space, we have several customers in the healthcare and the life sciences space. So the challenge of getting access to data, the challenge of securing the data, and managing the privacy and consent. Some of those things are now becoming legal requirements, like with GDPR and CCP and more such regulations enacted. This is a constant pressure where companies want to collect data and use data to conduct business and to conduct business in better ways. But it always needs to balance with the challenge of how do you comply with regulations, and how do you stay, keep the data secure? So I like to think of it as, the first thing really is companies need to have a good data strategy, because there is so much of the discussion that we're having today about using AI or machine learning in business ultimately relies on the availability of data. So you need to have a data strategy, and I like to think of it in 3 steps, right? You need to think of sourcing the data, securing the data, and socializing the data. You need to, the sourcing part, where all can you collect data from, and how flexible can you be with changing business needs. For example, COVID has put us in this situation where we need to now understand probably more information about hospitals than we ever tracked before. Which hospitals have suddenly become COVID specialty hospitals, which hospitals can provide treatment to some kind of, those are things that we never thought of 6 months back. So how do you create that sourcing strategy where you can get data and keep that model flexible? How do you then secure the data, which I think we have touched upon multiple times? Mm-hmm. And the most important thing is, how do you make it available for everyone inside your organization? Because what I see still is a lot of time is spent in just understanding whether the data exists and whether the data is available in the right format. Many times we see duplicate efforts being done to collect the same kind of data just because one team did not know that this data exists somewhere else in the organization, right? So we're touching upon some really important points, and I think both Hemal and Marco made some really important points which I think every company is thinking of. And as a software vendor, these are areas we are helping our customers with, either by providing that data platform that they can use for sourcing, securing, and socializing the data, or in providing some pre-packaged solutions around customer consent and privacy and things like that.
Thank you, Venki. So for Frank, Amazon, customer obsessed, a company like Amazon, how are you doing that? Excuse me.
For me, the world of AI and big data has been great because the combination of what you have today in terms of technology and data allow you to serve the customer the way they want. If you look at Amazon customer today, you will get less complaint. And I used to talk about Amazon domino effect. So when you have a consumer that shop around, they want to get the same service. And I think the reason for that is because we have been able to leverage data the way the consumer wants. You talk about privacy, yes. You talk about all this intimate data that you get from your consumers. But I think it's more about what insight do you get in order to satisfy, personalize the communication with your consumers. And this is where I think is the art of data science and marketing. Is how do you do precision and personalizations in a way that you fulfill the privacy aspect as well as the demand of the customer. And I think for me, big data is not an issue. It's more about what you do with it and the insight you get. Because at the end of the day, with data today, you can better serve your customers. Preach, but if you go to Amazon.com, how many products do you buy without thinking about it? It's just because we got it. And if you think about Facebook, it's the same. When you think about this monster in advertising, they know everything about you. But the important thing is, how do they use the data appropriately so you are not spam and you get what you want? And Amazon is in this philosophy. For us, when we do business, the first thing we put in front is what the consumer wants. It's similar to when you develop a product. It's not technology, it's why are you going to achieve? So here's my little thinking about what you asked me to.
Yeah, so completely agree with not your little thinking. I think that should be centered, right? What are we going to do with the data in a way that is good for the customer at first, and then secondly our own companies, and for us as Unilever, where we are, operating in an ecosystem with suppliers, partners, retailers, trade partners, and then finally the shopper. If you are not clear on what you do with the data, then you create, distrust. And for us, it's very important not so much to focus internally on sharing to our stakeholders what we're doing, but towards our customers, our partners in the chain. And so that had helped us with concrete examples. Like, we simply want to understand who dines in with a restaurant. And if we are able to get more diners into a restaurant, for example, that would help you. So can we have the related data points to help each other? And so in that way, you provide the opportunity to say, okay, then that makes total sense. So let's connect a few dots, and then we work on a shared win. And I just completely agree, Frank. I think we even need to do more on this specific topic. If it's clear for the customer what he or she will get out of it, they often will think, hey, I'm sharing anything nowadays without maybe even noticing. If people are asking up front and I see the clear benefit in return, I think there even will be create a data sharing that we can think of in the future. So thanks for all of your perspective on a very important topic.
I would like to add one thing.
Yeah, please.
I would like just to say, I talk about Amazon, but if you think about Spotify,
yeah,
Spotify use an algorithm in the data, and the way they process music is allowing you to discover more and more every day.
Yeah.
And the way they do that, it's a satisfaction for the consumers. So they have been using the data in a way that they are increasing the loyalty of the consumers. Do they violate privacy? I don't think so. Yeah. So it's just an example of what I'm giving.
No, I like that example a lot, to be honest. It reminds me of a couple of years ago, that might be already 5-6 years ago, when we wanted to introduce, what data could do for us in terms of a way to do good for our customers. And we use Spotify as an example. That is just close to heart to, in that days, maybe it's not 6, 10, 5 years ago or something, when they were early on, and looking where they are today. And obviously many have followed the model. Obviously Netflix is obviously a center in what they do with ourselves in terms of the mass, finding the mass with personalized content. So I like that example a lot. I think, Venki, you wanted to add a bit as well,
yeah,
right?
No, I wanted to ask you a question, Menno. You mentioned earlier about combining your data sets with your partner data sets and things like that. That is very relevant for the topic we're discussing here. So how did you go about solving that, of combining data sets and still maintaining the privacy and other kind of standards?
Yeah. So if I follow your kind of 3 steps in terms of what you need to have in place, for us, it's also important, obviously, to have a data strategy. And with that, you have a data privacy strategy as well. And then with each data source, you understand what can we use and what can't we use. So there's obviously explicit given data to us based on a transactional relationship, for instance, demographics. So that's pretty clear. Then you would also have your sets like public available data. So whenever you own a business, you register somewhere, and that data is often available in terms of, let's take a concrete example, right? That's even better for the conversation. Certain information like a restaurant chain with how many individual outlets is all available, even how many people are working within those outlets, and what a typical guest would be that would walk in such a store, what kind of menus they have, because that's all public available data. So using that set and combining that with a few other sets, that often is of great use of us. And then when you need to be very, very clear with your partner network is when you're touching PIA data, which is not explicitly given to yourself. So recent examples, I think also when we attended a seminar, which was jointly sponsored by us. If you haven't really asked the consent to all those people that have tuned in the session, let's be careful. They have not really said up front, I want to build a relationship with Unilever. So let's make sure you have those tick in the boxes. And if you feel it's arbitrary, you often don't really get a good relationship out of it because they don't expect it. So I think there are certain areas where you feel more comfortable and you have good relationship with the partners or public sources that are sharing the data. And when it's more arbitrary, I would say maybe it's not the right data source to include. There's enough data which you could use to be relevant. Don't try to seek those boundaries where you don't have to. But it's a challenging topic. But I think be creative is what I could share to all, and stay true to what Frank also said. Like, do it for the customer. And it's a simple answer, but it's often hard to follow. But thanks for asking. Yeah. Any other last things you want to share about, harnessing data, privacy. Otherwise, we move on to the next topic.
I just
Very
want to
good
share
to,
one
yeah.
quick example because you mentioned something that triggered a thought. One example is, from my personal life, right? Off late, there were two different companies that were coming around, knocking on the doors in our neighborhood and selling essentially pest control services. And this is something they do normally at this time of the year. And they're continuing with the normal style of doing business, but then obviously they're facing a lot of resistance because no one wants to open the door and talk to some unknown person at this time. And we also see in our own customer base, companies who are trying to combine their customer data, previous work orders, and weather data, and predictively saying this area, because of the weather patterns, is going to see a mosquito infestation. So we can proactively reach out and say, in the past years, you had bought the service from us. We expect this to become a problem in the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks. Do you want to go ahead and schedule an appointment? So there are very creative ways in which we see our customers utilizing data and changing the model and the conversation around how they do business with their customers. So pretty interesting.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. It's always good to reflect such topic, not only business-wise, but what we experience in our daily lives, right? So that often, what I like, for instance, when you step in a car and you have your Google Maps working for you, they prompt the questions like, hey, do you want to have it enabled? But also at the end of the journey, do you like it? So you're very aware of what you're giving back and what you get. So I think these prompted messages in your journey, I think is also a key thing. Remind people of what has been followed and what not. So I would like to move on to the next question. This is really about how we're doing, and please be as concrete as possible for our audience what it is, what we do. So let's talk about our specific strategies that AI enables, whether these are promotions, cross-selling. I think Amazon has been created that, upselling, targeting, etc. So what are the most valuable examples of AI in action which you like to share? Yeah, I have to start with Frank. So this is something Amazon have been starting off many years ago. What is a very recent example that you could spark and excite?
Yes, you could be amazed, but there is two things that we have been focusing a lot lately is what we call scoring model plus omnichannel strategy. What does it mean? Is that combining how you score your consumers, who is going to consume the right content on the right channel at the right time. So it combines the ad tech world with the MarTech world. And like I say, the reason we have been moving this way, it's because of the consumer journey. Today, the consumer journey is not linear. So the consumer could be anywhere on a different channel at different time on a different device. So tactically, we are trying to understand where are the consumer most likely to buy our product based on the channel. And so we have to combine these two aspects of technology is lead scoring, so you can score the consumers, and create an omnichannel strategy. If you think about the advertising world today, we have a tendency to overspend. So we are going to do Facebook, Google, and all the platforms, and we overlap on the consumer. And that goes back to the use of the data and the privacy. You want to reach the consumer once at the right time. So I will say the two things really we are focusing, it's lead scoring connected with omnichannel.
I like it. Marco from Verizon. So anybody in this panel not have a cell phone? That's our problem and our opportunity, which is a lot of what we do is actually managing to the base. It's our opportunity because it's our base, because they have a device that they use a lot. We have a lot of opportunities to let them know, hey, as an example, your device is running into this type or that type of issue. Would you be interested in upgrading it? This is what we recommend for you based on your paths and your usage. This would be a better plan for you. And our challenge in the fact that very few people switch cell phone provider. It's very candidly a pain in your intimate parts, no matter how we look at it. And while all of us as an industry are desperately trying to make it easier to switch to ourselves, none of us is particularly happy about the fact that some of our customers leave us, which brings churn models into the front as the other big area for us. So again, probably in a very different environment than Unilever, where on a daily basis I decide what I want to eat or utilize. With the cell phone, I'm really signing up for a long-term relationship. And so it's a lot about managing that relationship with the customer over years and proving the value of what I'm providing.
Yeah, thanks. From the pharmaceutical industry, Hemal, Merck.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as Frank was speaking, right, I kept nodding my head because I completely concur with everything that he said in terms of omnichannel marketing, right? So right message, right customer, right time, using the right channel. That's really where we want to get to, even in pharma. So I would say we're using these models both from targeting perspective and promotion perspective in terms of like just what are the right messages and the contents to deliver.
Yeah. Let me quickly add on this question because we do churn, we do lead scoring. Omnichannel is definitely one that it becomes much more important for us. So let's keep it with that, because we have a last question, which really would be exciting to see how we look into the future. Venki, if I may hold you for the next question to elaborate a little bit more how you see AI from here moving forward. So where do we see AI taking marketing over the next 5 years? So from your software knowledge as a company, Reltio, where do you see it's going?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll go back to what we started with, right? That this is now more accessible to everyone than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only going to accelerate, it's going to increase. So AI is going to get baked into products, into solutions that we have access to. Companies will have access to more such technologies that they can do their own one-off training. And you know, it's important to have that as a focus area for everyone, right? It should not be an afterthought, in my opinion. And I mean, everyone here, we've all been talking about it for the last 45 minutes now almost. Every company needs to be intentional in understanding what kind of decisions they want to drive, what kind of data is used for making those decisions, and what are the software tools, technologies they need to put in place to create a pipeline that constantly get this data, feeds into those models, and helps in the decision-making process. It's just going to become more mainstream if it is not already.
Yeah. What can we expect from Verizon? Having our phone, obviously, to your point, 24/7 with us. What can we expect?
So I think, guys, the way I would think about it is marketing has been on a journey. If you look back, I don't know if any of you ever opens very, very old newspapers, but the newspapers at the beginning of the century, I mean, in the 1900s, you'd have these commercials or these advertisements that were factual and mass. Buy this type of cream because it makes your hair shine, as an example. Sorry, it doesn't apply very well to me. Then you add the Mad Men era, the era in which marketing discovered that, hey, listen, let's get not factual, but let's get emotional because emotions sell. Then you had the Google area, which was the, well, wait, we don't need to be mass. We can be personalized, but we're still personalized without emotion because it's still the, oh, you're looking for a pair of shoes. Here's a link to multiple sites that sell that pair of shoes. The next frontier that AI, in my eyes, will enable and that will, again, revolutionize marketing is personalized emotions, meaning it's
Science
the ability
to
create, it's the ability to create mass amounts of emotional content that doesn't need to be deployed in a mass channel like a Super Bowl ad, because I can tweak it and make it unique to you and produce it at a scale and a cost that makes it possible for me to do so. So once we get there, that essentially will change the way in which we think about marketing, because it will be personalized and emotionally driven, contextual to all the data we have about your emotion.
So I'd like to add just one thing with that. Perfectly summarized. I think the marketeers become just as important as they are today. So let us all be comfortable in that era, because we will be even more powerful, because we are, those marketeers that want to be and are close to the customer, creating that magic, unlocking creativity, but now in a scale that it is really touching every single individual. So I think combining science with art and magic, I think is going to be a nice era that we are tapping into. Amazon as last, and then hopefully we have some time for the pharmaceutical industry. What will Amazon excite us in 5 years from now with AI?
The future state of marketing is personalizations, but personalization at scale, which means the future of marketing is there. But how do you get there is to transform the marketing ecosystem to support it. Like I said, we talked earlier on the hybrid solutions. So this is where is the challenge for Amazon. We know that personalization is key because it brings precision and profit. Now, how do you structure behind in order to make sure that you reach the goal?
The transformational programs to get it done. Yeah.
Transformation.
Hemal.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is very well covered so far. So just concur with all the comments made. High focus on it, high investment, more and more personalization.
Great.
For the hour, and we need to go there.
So let us continue pioneer in this era. Let's share. Let's learn from each other. I think it was a great session where we elaborate on a few topics on AI within marketing. There's plenty of grounds to touch, but I think we're coming to an end. So thank you for having shared all of our stories from our companies.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being such wonderful panelists. This was a great session with a lot of great insights. For those of you that are looking for your next session, you can check the program online to find your next session and stick around and do some networking. And also feel free to send our panelists some questions along the way. A big virtual round of applause for our panelists. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.